welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are well. This is going to be the weekly astro weather for the week of May the 4th through the 11th, 2025. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, give me a thumbs up on this channel and make sure you subscribe. I hope you guys like this video. We're going to take a look at the transits for the week ahead, including where the moon's going, what's happening, to kind of make sense of what's taking place. And I'm going to be featuring this week on my video Mercury in the sign of Aries, conjunct Chiron in Aries, why it's all about healing our minds, healing with words, and being mindful of what we have to say. So make sure you guys like this video. Leave me a comment below. Let me know how you're feeling with this week's vibes, and make sure you subscribe. Just as a reminder, I will be back this Friday. We're going to be doing live readings on the channel at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. on the Pacific Coast, 7 p.m. Eastern, and just in time for full moon readings. We have a full moon in Scorpio that's going to be coming up, so make sure you guys join me if you want to get a reading. All right, well, the week ahead is a fun one. As you guys know, every time I put these videos out, I'm going to talk about one featured transit. And if you guys stay tuned to the end of the video, I'll be talking about where the Mercury Chiron conjunction in Aries is taking place for the 12 rising signs. So this will be your rundown for the week ahead. We've got some feisty energy this week, lots of stuff to unpack. So let's go ahead and kind of kick things off. So as like a snapshot for the week ahead, we've got a lot of really bold Aries energy in the skies. You guys are going to feel that, especially in terms of communication. Interesting paired up in the midst of Taurus season. And we're going to be also seeing some transits that are going to be happening in Virgo that are going to be kind of playing nicely with the transit Virgo Moon with planets in Taurus. So it's going to give a little bit more of a grounded feel. I think, honestly, the standout transit for me this week, outside of the Pluto retrograde, is going to be the Mercury Chiron conjunction. So that will be taking place on the 6th on Tuesday around 24 degrees. So if you have anything 23 to 25 degrees Aries, sun, moon rising, a node, anything like that, pay attention, because as you guys know, Mercury is directly connected to the South Node. So we're dealing with the past wounding, past issues pertaining to health habits and routine. And I'm excited to kind of see what happens, because I do feel like this transit is giving us the opportunity to kind of really shine a spotlight on just exactly where and how we speak our truth. And it's about healing old wounds through our words. So words can be empowering this week, or they can kind of be working against us. Some of us might be feeling like we're putting our foot in our mouth. So you want to watch for that, especially in terms of important conversations and communications. As you guys know, Chiron is the healer. He is the wounded healer. So if you're familiar with the myth of Chiron, in Greek mythology, he's a centaur. Okay, so this is Chiron right here at 24 of Aries. He was half human, half horse, and he was known for his wisdom when it comes to the psychic as well as healing arts. So it's kind of a cool spotlight, I think, because it's really showing us where we have the opportunity to heal our inner wounds and kind of tap into our inner warrior. Anyway, he was known as being associated with healing and medicine as well. And what's interesting is, if you guys have heard the myth of Chiron, he was actually wounded by a poison arrow, and he could not heal himself despite his skills. So how appropriate in the sign of Aries that it's dealing with kind of healing our own wounds. Anyway, during this myth, he was able to turn his pain into purpose, and he was able to teach other people how to heal. So astrologically, your natal Chiron placement is going to represent some of your deepest wounds, often ones that we cannot fully fix ourselves. But it also teaches us through transits to Chiron that it's all about the power in transformation and kind of turning that pain into strength, and also being able to exercise compassion for other people. So as we see Mercury here this week, it's all about using words and ideas to unlock the healing process. Things like journaling, right? Having heart-to-heart conversations, therapy, as well as time for reflection can all be really beneficial. And as for themes that you guys are going to want to watch for with this conjunction, I do think it's going to be themes of identity, because it's taking place in Aries, obviously a fiery cardinal sign that's all about independence and really self-assertion. So you might feel like a need to stand up for yourself or express yourself or talk about things that maybe you have been afraid to kind of discuss or come to terms with. Now, Aries is a sign that loves to really say, this is me, take it or leave it. But I think with Chiron's influence, we might actually be revisiting places where we have felt silenced or dismissed or hurt. And it's a chance to kind of rewrite the script this week and feel more inspired, I think, with Chiron being there, where there is some kind of wisdom in the expression of being hurt and kind of talking to people about how we feel. Now, both Mercury, because it does deal with the mind, it also deals with habits and routines, and it's connected to the South Node. This is definitely about health topics. So health care, things pertaining to information, connecting to treatments and news and information with health is definitely going to be a theme this week. So I do think that I would be watching for this, especially because Aries deals with younger individuals. It can be dealing with young men in particular, but it's not limited to just men or women. And Aries rules the head. So we will also want to be really alert and paying attention to anything connected to head injuries, allergies or tension, headaches, or just feeling a little mentally burnt out because of over communication or overthinking. Now, Mercury is going to tie also, like I said, to your daily routines with that connection to the South Node. So it might be a good week to kind of rethink some of your habits and be thinking about what no longer serves you, how you can kind of switch up or change up your health habits, your work schedule, your routine, and really be tapping into where something is coming up for you that you just have to express or you just have to kind of get out. Be mindful of self-talk. We can be a little bit more self-critical with this aspect this week. It's important to kind of remind yourselves that you have to be your own cheerleader. Otherwise, we're going to fall into the trap with the Mercury Chiron conjunction of being our harshest critic. Chiron says you can heal by owning your voice. Now, for some of us, this may materialize as, frankly, feeling burnt out, coming to terms with that something work-wise isn't flying any longer. Tension with coworkers, issues with schedules, realizing we're overworking, or having trouble finding a job can definitely be a theme for some of us. So this can spark sudden insights about your career paths because Mercury is about what's, been kind of rearranged recently and kind of moving retrograde. We might be kind of approaching health, job, or fitness themes in a different manner. Now, Mercury in Aries loves a fresh start. So with the conjunction to Chiron, it might encourage you to heal your insecurities about your skills, maybe even about your leadership. And I think that Chiron here can kind of almost be like a mentor to students and kind of teaching them, to be brave and to kind of go after what they want. So if you've been hesitating to speak up at work, this transit might be one that's saying, go for it, but have those conversations with intention. The South Node link is important. As you guys know, we have to really be paying attention to Mercury transits more than usual because Mercury is the ruler of the South Node. And it is hovering at the beginning of the week at 26 degrees. So it's going to be money stuff, security stuff, job security, physical, relocations and changes of offices, changes of schedules can definitely come up as well. But here, this is where it gets kind of juicy because Mercury is the ruler of the South Node. So the South Node is going to kind of talk about what we need to release or maybe where we're getting stuck in patterns connected to the past. Obviously, Virgo is a perfectionist, so we can be finding that we are being overly critical, overanalyzing, or there could be some people-pleasing tendencies that are coming up that are just not good for us on a personal level. So when the conjunction takes place, we're being asked to let go of that self-critical kind of narrative and step into a more bold, confident kind of sense of self. I also feel like this is going to be big for bridging the past, right? South Node and the future, Aries, and what new actions we're taking to let go of some of these old patterns. Now, watch your words. Like I said, self-talk is huge here. Aries energy can make us a little bit more blunt and direct, sometimes too blunt. So be mindful of how you speak to yourself and other people. Definitely consider some journaling exercises this week, and maybe venting to a trusted friend can help, especially if we're trying to process and work with this energy in a constructive way. Definitely lead into affirmations that boost your courage, but we don't want to tip into arrogance. So, I think I can, or I'm capable, or I'm strong, I'm bold can be really helpful in kind of getting you through some of what can feel like some very mentally draining energies. Make the most of it. That's something else I would say. Use this transit to have brave conversations. If you've been feeling insecure about something, if you've been meaning to have a conversation or connect with someone, or possibly even set some new boundaries, by using this transit to your benefit, you can really own your worth and maybe even apologize for some missteps or miscommunications in the past. You can definitely channel a lot of wisdom, especially when you're dealing with Chiron transits, and we can heal through connection, not isolation. Really, the key theme here is trying to have conversation with a sense of compassion. Watch for impulsive arguments. This can happen, or maybe blurting something out that you regret. If you feel triggered, take a breath, count to 10, pause, because Aries moves very quickly, and Mercury is going to give you the tools to really think it through. Okay, so watch those words and stay tuned till the end. I'll take you guys through the 12 rising signs. Now, for the rest of the week, we're going to start on Sunday, May the 4th. So Star Wars Day. So those of you guys who are Star Wars fans, you guys are waking up in the morning and that moon is in Leo. And, yesterday into today, the moon moving through this sign has been very action-oriented with conjunctions to Mars. So it's been, on one hand, very creative, romantic, playful. It's about getting out and about and doing things, but some of us have felt a little flustered. So let me know how you guys have been feeling with that connection. Maybe it was softened a little bit with some of the Venus-Neptune trines, which felt a little bit more romantic and inspirational, a little bit more daring. But this morning, the moon is going to continue through the sign of Leo. So I'm always looking at the sun when we're dealing with moon and Leo transits. And something you're going to catch first thing this morning is that the sun and the moon are going to square. So this is the opening square since the new moon that we had in Taurus. So this is now the kind of the building phase and the reevaluation of, okay, well, there's something that we want to possess, own. There's something financially, there's something self-esteem wise, or some kind of maybe purchase that we're wanting to make. And this is where the drama is kind of getting kicked up. And that Leo moon definitely brings the drama. So with that square, there can be some changes of plans. We will see, in spite of that, though, that the moon will make a trine both to Mercury as well as Chiron. And it will also make a sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. Now, that'll happen later in the PM hours. And then also later this evening, Pluto is going to turn retrograde in Aquarius. So we're going to start a several-month period of a deep dive, I think, reassessment of our personal powers, goals, anything in regards to where we're also going in the future. So we're kicking off Sunday really with this moon square, the sun, and I feel like there's some tension here, okay? There can be tension between where you want to shine and what you're kind of desiring for stability. That Leo moon's like, I want to go out, I want to play, I want to, go and see some live music, I want to go and, do a hobby. But, do I feel safe and secure enough to do that? Do I feel optimistic about it turning out right? Do I have the money to be able to kind of fuel some of the fun stuff that I want to be doing today? Now, the trine, I think, to Mercury and Chiron, it keeps things fiery. It also can be very expressive, and it can really shine when it comes to being able to kind of make a splash and go out in its own way. So that trine is going to be great for speaking from the heart. And if you have to have a heart-to-heart conversation, or if you're trying to get the point across and tell somebody how you feel, it can be definitely great for that. And then going into the PM hours, is the moon is going to come into a sextile, obviously with Jupiter in Gemini. That is going to bring a burst of optimism. We might find that it's just like a very chatty evening this Sunday. There's lots of back and forth communication with people, more optimistic also about what's coming out in the news. It could be things connected to the market. It can also be great for, planning travel, anything that's going to be kind of mercurial in that sense. I also feel like this is great for brainstorming. So if you need to be brainstorming a creative project, or you're trying to kind of get creative with how you're going to be, working on a project or making plans later in the week, this is a good time to set some of those plans up and to also communicate with people and confirm things. Now, Pluto will station retrograde at 3 degrees. I did a video on that if you guys haven't seen it. I think it's significant, especially right on the heels of the Mars-Pluto oppositions. So now we have kind of we've been dealing with the wounding in this last week of the Mars-Pluto opposition, and now as Pluto stations retrograde, It'll go between 3 and 1 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have any planets between 0 and I would say 4 of Aquarius, you're under Pluto transit. Lots of change and transformation going on for you right now. Purging, detoxification, peeling away all those layers. And Scorpio risings too. You guys are really impacted by that. But I'm anticipating it's going to be a bit of a slow burn, and it is signaling deep societal shifts or personal power revelations that are going to be taking place over the next several months. So we will watch the moon continue to go through Leo. Looks like it's going to pick up, it's going to pick up the square pretty early in the morning. Right around the time you guys are watching this, for the next 2 hours, there's a square. So things might feel a little complex in making decisions and some plan changes that are going to happen. And then the moon's going to pick up a trine to Mercury, which is going to be better for communications in the PM, and a sextile also to Jupiter. So definitely use it as a great opportunity to make some plans and confirm some things, or just have some conversations with people and be creative and feel inspired. All right, so this is going to take us into the 5th, which will be Monday. And what we're going to see is that moon is going to continue through Leo in the morning hours. And it is going to come into a square with Uranus and Taurus. So there can definitely be some emotional turbulence. There can also be some shocks and surprises and things that are taking place in the market as, the stock market's connected to Leo. So that can mean that there are unexpected twists or turns or unusual things that are kind of happening with the market on Monday morning. We will then see as the day goes on after the square, where we've had some kind of unexpected emotional jolts or maybe feelings of like needing some kind of freedom, we will then see the moon come into an inconjunct or a quincunx with Saturn in Pisces. So here we might feel a little torn between having fun and taking chances and risks and being creative, or feeling like restricted and having some sort of like responsibility. We could literally feel kind of a little bad about having a good time or, having fun or kind of expressing ourselves. And it can be like, oh, am I doing too much? We can kind of feel a little insecure coming up with that inconjunct to Saturn. Now, by the late afternoon, the moon will then shift into Virgo. So we're going to see that happening right around here. And it's a vibe shift. Once that moon shifts into Virgo, then we're looking at Mercury. So truth be told, even though the Mercury Chiron conjunction is playing out closer to, the 6th and the 7th, you guys are probably going to start feeling the effects of the emotional, mental sensitivities, the, difficult time expressing yourself, maybe feeling insecure, needing to kind of share where you've been hurt or wounded. You're going to start feeling that pickup just because of the moon ingress. And when we have the moon go through Virgo, it's very grounding. So it's about, organization. It's about busyness, perfecting things, health, wellness, our routine. So it's giving us this more practical energy, I think, that we can be working with. And it's a great time to be focusing on organization. But also being more aware, I would say, like the 5th through the 8th, of our health, habits, and routines. This is something you want to focus on, because if you're somebody that's been avoiding routine, not making changes to some of your habits, maybe not making some shifts at work, you're definitely going to feel the crunch of that and some of the mental pressure that's going to be kind of coming up. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, as the day continues here on Monday, the moon will keep going through Virgo. Not much is going to be happening here. You will see in the PM hours, the moon is going to inconjunct or quincunx both Neptune and Venus. So we can feel like there's something a little disjointed between the things we want to go and initiate and start, personal pleasure, our joys, and then this feeling that's like, well, do we have time for that? Does it fit into our schedule? Does it actually feel good? Is it good for me? So pay attention to what's going on with some of those thoughts that can be kind of popping up for you guys, especially since the moon is going to be a focal point of a yod between Pluto, Neptune, and Venus. That may indicate that there's some really important news or information that's going to be brewing revolving around health matters, job numbers, changes revolving around also, our collective mood towards health. I think like there might be some stuff coming out, here in the United States with, what's going on with RFK and decisions that are being made potentially about the future of healthcare and what's being rolled back and what's being added. And a lot of people, feeling like they need to speak out and voice their either concerns or their support for some of the changes that's happening, especially because the moon is in the sign of the South Node. So it's going to be about what we're breaking apart or what we're kind of dismantling. All right, so the moon's going to continue to keep moving through Virgo, and that's going to take us into Tuesday the 6th. And in the morning, it's still in that same sign. We're still watching Mercury, and it's creeping up on the connection to Chiron. Nothing else is really happening right off the bat. But we will see Venus is now in a sextile to Pluto. Now, she's still in shadow, so she still has to go a couple more degrees before we're out of that kind of post-Venus retrograde shadow where there's been a lot of love and money stuff that's gotten shaken up. But she's in a good position here. The sextile to Pluto is about empowerment. So it can be a bit of like a spicy combo for passion and transformation in relationships for sure. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad aspect to have. And as the moon continues to keep moving, it's going to start to kind of come later into the day with a trine to the sun in Taurus. So it's going to feel a little bit more grounded and stabilized than usual. Now, the challenge here is that even though this is going to be very positive and grounding when it comes into that trine, so that's going to be in the PM hours, we are seeing the Mercury Chiron connection happening at the same time, and this is directly connected to the moon. So this might mean where there's announcements about changes going on with, federal funding, services, things connected to healthcare, maybe even Medicare. Maybe it's going to be also connected to, just services in general. I think like Virgo is about like servants and being able to kind of help the collective. And how that's also connected to agriculture and food. So we've kind of heard in recent weeks a back and forth about, banning all these food dyes and, how that might impact certain industries and whether or not, they're actually going and making the changes. So we might be hearing more about the influence of some of these new health regulations on food and ag. So watch for that. Outside of that, I feel like, some of the aspects that are being made, it's a very productive day. It's a day where you can see a lot of tangible progress. But what you want to watch for is the Mercury Chiron conjunction. And I think for some people, it's going to hit you guys a little bit sooner than the actual conjunction. So just wait for that. This is the featured transit that I was talking about, and that's about healing with words and action. So if something hurts, you got to talk about it. If something is not working for you, you have to acknowledge it. And for some people, it's not just changing a habit or routine. It could be changes in the way that you're managing your budget or spending, right? We're seeing trines to Taurus, things revolving around what you're eating, what you're consuming, what you're buying. So it can be also about kind of consumer goods as well. And 24s always deal with things relating to stuff that's hidden, right? So if you follow degree theory, 12s are going to deal with Pisces energies. So I'll give you guys my master list of that really quick. So 12 or 24, which is where the Mercury Chiron conjunction is, deals with things like disappearances, things that disappear, people that disappear, loss, things that were secret or kept secret now become explored, fears, phobia, psychiatrists, mental diseases, things that are invisible, medications, pharmacy, chemists, and pharmacists. Now, I say this specifically because the South Node's going through a sign that I feel like does deal with that. Pharmacists and anything connecting to healing can be Virgo as well as Scorpio. So I'm wondering, is there going to be some news or information revolving around, a medication? Are we going to be hearing about the future of certain medical schedules and treatments? We might hear something like that. And stuff connected to hospitals, isolated places, things that are religious or divine nature, hotels, hotel management, things that happen at night, oil or gasoline, drug or drug addiction, drug dealers, photography, photos, things that are falsified, vague, or obscure, research, things that are connected to the sea, drowning, poisons, and like running or escaping from things. So just kind of putting it all together, I do think that conjunction that's taking place on the 6th is the setup for some things that we're going to be hearing going into the 7th when we start to see the moon apply to a conjunction with the south node and make an opposition to Saturn, some kind of regulations revolving around some of this stuff. So let's see. All right, so outside of that, that's pretty much it. Watch for the conjunction between Mercury and Chiron heating up. You're going to see that conjunction actually take place overnight in the late hours, and then we're waking up on the 7th, which is going to be Wednesday, and the moon is still in Virgo. Now, this is what I was talking about. The moon's going to be applying to a conjunction with the south node, so there's like an emotional clearing, and then we're also going to see the moon trine Uranus, so this is why I'm speculating it could be some financial fluctuations of a certain pharmaceutical stock. It can be, things revolving around food and prices. And then it will come into an opposition with Saturn. So we got a lot of lunar stuff happening on Wednesday. We will also see in the midst of the moon going through here, it's going to come into a square with Jupiter. So we're going to see a mutable T-square where the moon is squaring Jupiter and it's also opposing Saturn. So it's going to make Jupiter the focal point of this particular square on the 7th. Wow, this is busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And also the moon will inconjunct or quincunx Mercury, which is its dispositor in Chiron. So the 6th at night into the 7th is where you're going to have some of the most challenging aspects revolving around work, schedule, health, routine, communications. These are not the best communication days, unfortunately. I do think that with that moon coming into a trine with Uranus, it is offering some support. So good for innovative ideas, maybe switching things up, being a little bit more flexible. However, the moon square Jupiter on Wednesday is going to materialize as feeling overstimulated, too much information, too much news, juggling too many things at one time. And then the conjunction to the south node is definitely going to be bringing up for a lot of us this stirring of old patterns and things that we need to release. All of that tying back to Mercury conjunct Chiron. So where we're overworking, where we are not being kind to ourselves, we're being super hypercritical, we're acting maybe defensive at work or with other people. And this will be a transit where people will notice that their health is much more likely to be impacted. Now, not everybody's going to have a health issue, but we're going to be a little bit more sensitive in the physical or mental health department on Wednesday. When it comes into an opposition with Saturn and Pisces, okay, so you will see first thing that's going to happen is the inconjunct or the quincunx to Chiron. So that's going to happen in like the mid-afternoon. The inconjunct to Mercury, which happens right after that. The conjunction to the south node, which is going to be at 26. This is a Taurus degree, so money, food, agriculture, resources, and also a trine to Uranus. You're going to see a lot of stuff that's going to be kind of changing suddenly or dramatically. And then the opposition to Saturn is going to represent this kind of like tightening effect. So what's going to happen here is we're going to be feeling almost like we're having to kind of balance duty with self-care, right? And with that opposition and also some of the trines. I think the inconjunct of the quincunx that's happening to Mercury and Chiron makes things a little tricky to express our feelings. Keep it simple, be honest with people. We don't need to overcomplicate things. It's not uncommon when the south node and the moon meet that we feel like there is this like emotional release. And maybe we're getting, heated and upset and angry, and we're realizing like it's because we haven't spoken up about something. We haven't discussed something. We haven't told people how we feel, or we've been kind of holding things inside. So kind of keep that in mind. But when it hits that opposition to Saturn, I do think that that's where there is going to be a feeling of, okay, maybe I haven't been paying attention to my emotions, and this is later at night. And this is the repercussion, or, I have been feeling overworked and overwhelmed. And that's why I suddenly, quit my job or whatever on Wednesday. Something like that can kind of happen. So kind of keep the emotions in control and in check if you guys can. I think this is your opportunity to finally get out what you've been meaning to say for some time. Just don't overcomplicate it. Okay. Keep it simple. Keep it honest. Now, overnight, the moon's going to go into Libra. So when we wake up, on the 8th, which is going to be Thursday, different vibe. In the middle of the night, at least where I am, I know we've got people everywhere, but the moon will oppose Neptune and come into an opposition with Venus very early in the morning. Interesting stuff, especially since, the moon in Libra, we want to focus more on diplomacy, mediation, partnerships, romance, clients, and just interacting with others. And first thing in the morning, the ruler, Venus, is going to be in opposition to that. And it's also going through a sign that it's a bit debilitated here in Aries. It's not necessarily at full capacity because it's going to be more self-focused rather than relationship focused, or relationships are moving very quickly, or maybe individuals are realizing they want or they need something different. And so it creates a little bit of tension with that moon in Libra. Now, the positive is that the moon is going to be coming into a trine with Pluto. So I do feel like even in spite of the moon opposing Venus in Aries and Neptune in Aries, and relationships will experience on Thursday a bit of like a push and pull. That trine that we're going to see to Pluto, I feel like is really adding lots of depth to the changes and what's going to be best and beneficial for everybody. And maybe a little bit of space or honoring, somebody's independence or their needs doesn't mean it needs to be a make or break situation in a relationship. It just means that things are changing, they're evolving. Now, something else that's going to happen on Thursday is you're going to see finally Mars has left the retrograde shadow. So if you guys have been following since the beginning of December of 2024, Mars had been retrograde. It's been direct now for a little while, but it's finally leaving the degrees, which it was kind of in its shadow period. So no more conflict with some of the Mars stuff. We're finally out of the Mars-Pluto opposition where there's less stress and tension, maybe in social situations or with dating, or kind of feeling like you're being challenged to really reimagine or rework something about your personal joy. It could be your kids, your hobbies. It could be your own personal business. It could be a relationship, and not feeling like things are as heavy as they have been in recent months with the opposition. So we're going to feel a little bit more free to kind of get out and do what we want to do, which is great. As it leaves its shadow, I think it's going to drive confidence up. I think we're going to get a green light to kind of move forward maybe with taking risks and also relationships or things that we love. Throughout the day, we will see the moon in Libra come into a sextile with Mars. It'll be actually later in the day, but that's going to also add a little bit more oomph to your guys' Thursday. And I think that sextile, it boosts charm on Thursday night, great for creativity. Obviously, Venus is now separating from Neptune, and I think that it's now far enough away that we're not feeling some of the vagueness, the fogginess in relationships, the confusion, maybe feeling like we're lost. I don't think we're going to be feeling that much longer, especially as we're getting into mid-May when Mars and Venus start trining. So I like that on Thursday, we're finally clearing up some romantic or creative fog. And to me, it feels like now we can finally start to move forward and kind of see where we stand on a personal level and figure out how relationships to other people kind of factor into having made all of these personal changes over these last few weeks. Outside of that moon will continue to keep going through Libra. And Venus is very important. With the sun in Taurus on Thursday and the moon in Libra, both of these placements are driven by Venus. And so I think Venus kind of sextiling Pluto a little bit. People are going to feel a little bit more bold and dynamic maybe than usual. And then this will take us into the 9th. So this will be Friday. And moon is still in Libra. Nothing's really kind of going on here. Other than we will see a moon inconjunct or quincunx to the sun, so things might feel a little disjointed. And the moon will eventually come into a trine also with Jupiter. So moon trine Jupiter, I think, is going to be pretty optimistic. The inconjunct to Taurus might feel a little like we're trying to reconcile two things that just aren't quite fitting. And then later in the day, you will see the moon start coming into an opposition with Chiron. So we're seeing more Chiron kind of wounding themes that are coming up. Friday, I think, is great for celebration, collaboration, socializing, anything that's going to be like lighthearted chats. Like I like Friday night for, getting out and about and meeting people. It's the inconjunct to the sun that I would say don't force big decisions, financial decisions, purchasing things, big decisions about commitments and relationships. And as we get into the PM and we start to see that moon oppose Chiron, we can definitely see some of the themes from earlier this week where there was some wounding that is now surfacing. but it's a chance to reflect. The moon is about reflecting. So we're kind of reflecting on, okay, well, where do we stand in relationship to other people? You know, do I feel like I'm being heard? Do I feel like I've gotten to get everything out? Like, are we communicating better now that we've kind of cleared the air earlier in the week? Probably, I would say, yeah, that's definitely likely. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? So the moon's going to keep doing its thing. It looks like you're going to catch a inconjunct to the sun, and that's going to be right around kind of like early afternoon. And then you're going to get the trine to Jupiter happening in the PM hours. And this is why I feel like Friday night's a really great night for socializing, getting out and meeting people. Mercury's going to hit 29 degrees. So we feel like there is a lot of critical turning points with communication taking place, obviously, this week. And then overnight, the moon's going to keep going through Libra. Looks like it'll actually catch the opposition to Chiron very early in the morning on Saturday. So Friday into Saturday, there's still some communication stuff coming up, guys. And then on the 10th, which will be Saturday morning, we wake up with the moon in the late degrees of Libra. So it's still kind of relationship oriented. Obviously, we're also looking at Venus now starting to slowly come into a trine with Mars. You're going to see that more the third week of May, but I think it's going to be a lot more, bliss and a lot more action and adventure in relationships and things kind of proceeding forward than some of the stagnation we've seen in recent weeks. That Libra moon opposed Chiron early on. I don't think you're really going to feel it as much. If you're an early riser, maybe. I think you're going to actually catch most of it on Friday night. And we're going to see Mercury's going to enter into Taurus. So Mercury changing signs is pretty significant, where we have been more self-focused, independent, daring, speaking our mind with Mercury and Aries. Now Mercury is moving into fixed Earth, ruled by Venus. So with this transit, basically what you want to watch for is that the mind gets a little bit more practical. We slow down a little bit. We're a little bit more grounded. And as we get to the mid-afternoon, then we're going to see the moon change signs. So let's look at that. And it looks like that's going to be happening right here. So I'm on Central Time, so it's mid-afternoon for me. Yet another communication mishap. So Mercury in Taurus wants to talk about beauty, fashion, pleasure. It wants to talk about food. It wants to talk about security. It wants to take its time when it's committing to something or looking through a contract. It really wants to enjoy the process of conversing and communicating. And with the moon opposing, okay, and the moon going through Scorpio, we know is a rather intense couple-day period because this is about exposing things. This is also about transparency. It's about healing, getting to the bottom of a situation. So this is yet more financial stuff that's coming up, especially when you consider the fact that the moon is going to be squaring Pluto. So this is some emotional turbulence that's coming up on Saturday night. And it's going to be opposing Mercury, making it more challenging to communicate values and financial stuff with others. And then it's going to come into a square with Mars. Ouch. So it's a little too wide for it to be a grand fixed cross. Maybe if you work with a 10-degree orb, but certainly the opposition to Mercury and the square to Pluto is pretty pronounced on Saturday afternoon going into Saturday evening. For me, I would just say, mid-afternoon when this happens, watch when the moon goes into Scorpio for the intensification of emotions. Watch for people getting, a little bit kind of prickly. With the opposition of Mercury and Taurus, I think there's definitely a conflict of maybe beliefs or a conflict of perspective when it comes to financial things. And with the moon squaring Pluto, what this is going to be bringing up for you guys is basically power struggles or deep revelations. So what financial news is coming out, on a Saturday? I don't know, but something that could be connected to taxes, obviously that's Scorpio, things that are connected to debt, bonds, stuff going on with banking. Obviously, now that we have Mercury and Taurus, we're going to start seeing it coming into a square with Pluto. So that means that there's going to be intensification of communication happening. There's going to be push for disclosure. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to want, literal facts and figures and numbers. And likely there's going to be some dropping information about some financial crimes or a hack or some kind of leak that's kind of coming about. So I'm waiting to kind of see that play out over the next week. Anyway, let's see, what else we got going on here? Anything else? No, I don't think so. So now we're coming into what's getting ready to be the full moon energy in Scorpio. Know that moon has moved into Scorpio. So in the evening hours on Saturday, you're going to see the moon come into a square with Pluto. So that'll be kind of later in the evening, but still can be kind of intense in connecting and socializing with people. We always want to see what's going on with Pluto and with Mars by sign within 7 degrees. They're still opposing. So you guys might actually feel some of the pressure from the, I create, I enjoy, I play, I love versus, well, what do other people want? And is there some kind of polarity that's kind of setting up in a social dynamic or just out in the world? The moon's going to definitely trigger that. All right, so that moon's going to keep going through Scorpio as we get into what will be the 11th, and that will be Sunday. And when the moon's going through Sunday morning, it is now starting to pick up the square to Mars. Okay, so first Saturday night, moon square Pluto, emotional kind of intensity. Now we've got moon square Mars, which can feel the same way, but it can also be where like emotions pop, right? So with this transit, what we're going to see on Sunday is that, there can be some tempers that can flare. Moon square Pluto is definitely temperamental. I would say channel that energy into passion projects. This would also be a good time to start getting ready and preparing for the full moon in Scorpio. It's interesting that with the moon's ingress into the sign where it will be a full moon on the 12th, it is not only opposing Mercury where there's some communication mishaps and not only squaring Pluto where there's going to be some power struggles, but then it's going to square Mars. The moon's making a lot of hard aspects and, squares generally are the energy of Mars. So it feels like something's rumbling, like there's a little bit of like tension and stuff that's getting ready to pop. So you were going to pick up that square to Mars around about midday on Sunday the 11th. And it's squaring at a 10, okay? So it can be talking about some long-standing patterns and things that have been happening maybe in the financial world. Maybe it can be about power and control, government spending, things connecting to budgets, taxes, that kind of stuff can be popping up as well. And it's going to keep on going through Scorpio. It's not going to make very many aspects outside of that for the rest of the day. So you're going to feel like emotions are simmering. Just kind of take it slow. Watch for what's bubbling up because it's the setup for the 12th when we have the full moon. Now that moon's going to keep moving through Scorpio. It's not going to make really any other aspects. The only other thing that I would be watching for is that on Sunday, Mercury is now getting ready to start coming into a square with Pluto. That's going to be factored very strongly into the full moon in Scorpio, which is why I think that's going to be a full moon that's going to be about some kind of disclosure. But those of you guys who are sensitive, you might be feeling that a little bit earlier, especially if you have anything, I would say, from about 0 to 10 degrees of the fixed signs. This week in particular, you're going to be feeling some of those squares that are going to be kicking up a little bit more than usual. And then obviously the 12th will have the full moon in Scorpio. I just put that video out for you guys if you want to check it out. I definitely think that the effects that it has with some of the aspects are mirroring a lot of the things that we saw in the fall of 2024 when we had that new moon. So it's interesting to see how it plays out. Anyway, let's get on to the 12 rising sign predictions. Let's talk a little bit about what the Mercury Chiron conjunction is likely going to mean for a lot of you guys this week. So let's go back a little bit and look at when that conjunction happened. And as you guys know, I'm a Western astrologer, so that's the kind of astrology that I like to practice is Western. I'm going to be showing you guys the conjunction from the perspective of the whole rising sign. So to make the most of my predictions, I recommend listening to your rising sign first. That's going to tell you literally which area of your life you're going to experience maybe some of these communication wounds or things that are kind of coming up. You also want to tie it to the south nodes. You want to look at not just the house of Aries, which regardless of where it is, there's a relationship to the self. You play a role in what's going to happen this next week. Then you also want to look at the south node in Virgo because there's going to be a connection that's going to be tied to that as well. Okay. Special notice, 20, let's say 23 to 25 degrees of Aries placement, sun, moon, or rising Also, my Gemini and Virgo risings, Mercury meeting with Chiron is definitely a time to be mindful of communication and where there can be some stuff coming up for you that you're healing, you're helping somebody else heal. Maybe you're writing something down that's going to be very therapeutic. So watch for that. So we're going to start with my Aries and Aries risings. So this is very personal for you guys. Obviously, it's taking place in your sign. As you know, Mercury is connected with the South Node transit in your 6th house, which is like your pets, your coworkers, your health, your daily routine, can be about habits as well. So you're going to become, I think, more aware in the 1st house of some of these topics. So this can be connected to yourself, your words, your identity, your appearance. All of these things you can be a little bit more sensitive about this week. I would say for some tips here, because this is potentially going to hit your sense of self, this is a really good time to rewire any negative self-talk, okay? Journal about what makes you you, and I would say affirm that. Speak up about who you are and don't feel like you have to apologize about it. You might feel a little extra sensitive about how others perceive you as well, and old insecurities about your independence can definitely surface here, so you want to watch for that. And I would say watch for a breakthrough moment in how you assert yourself this week. Maybe there's a confrontation that comes up and you have to kind of define yourself and have this moment where you're like, okay, I'm enough, and you realize that. Practice maybe some mirror work, look at yourself and say empowering affirmations like I am strong, I am enough, I'm capable, because I think that can be really helpful for you. And be very mindful of your health this week, especially anything connected to heat, flames, anything like that, Aries things where you could accidentally, injure yourself, or maybe you misspeak, at work, or your allergies are kicking up. I don't know. Any of these things could be scenarios that can happen with that connection. And likely at 24, it'll be something you didn't realize, but now you have become more aware that it's kind of happening and taking place. Okay? Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You're going to be doing the Mercury Chiron connection in Aries in your natal 12th house. As you know, Mercury is directly connected to the South Node transit going through your 5th house right now. So it can be healing a broken heart, dealing with some, romantic challenges in communication. It might mean that there's some issues going on with children or expressing matters of the heart, or doing some inner child healing, something like that can definitely be a theme. The 12th house is subconscious, so it's hidden, and it's also about secrets. It can also be about spirituality. So, some kind of dream symbols or omens can be coming up for you that can help you heal and release something. I feel like for you guys, this is about diving into your inner world, and meditation or dream journaling can really help you uncover hidden wounds this week. And you might be aware of where you're self-sabotaging. So I would say just speak kindly into your subconscious. It's time to release some kind of buried fear or shame, especially revolving around whether or not you're good enough, or if you're creative enough, or you're happy enough. And I think that, for you guys, a past hurt can definitely come up, and it can be in a repressed memory, and it might bubble up through a dream or some kind of insight. And maybe you have a really profound spiritual conversation with somebody that shifts your perspective after you have this transit. Watch for mental restlessness. That can happen as well. And I would just say slow down, have a wind down routine at night, light some incense, meditate, do something like that. And this can also be about healing something. Some of you guys might have a sick kid this week, unfortunately. Obviously, I hope not, but you lose some sleep and you're like, oh my God, or there's something that's going on that is keeping you up at night, and it can be connected to a romantic partner, it could be a creative project. So try not to lose any sleep over this particular transit, okay? Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to experience the Mercury Chiron connection in your 11th house in Aries. Obviously, you're Mercury, so it can be about literally an interaction you have with another person. And it's also connected to the South Node in your 4th house. So clearing out the past, dealing with home and family matters, talking to friends about what's been going on in your private life, letting them know how difficult a move has been, or dealing with a family situation, or maybe where you just feel like you need out of the house and you need to go and spend some time with people who get you. I think with this connection, friends and community can be therapeutic. So this is about reflecting on your role in groups. I think that some of you guys might feel like you're a little overlooked. So you have Facebook or social media, you're going to see lots of things where people are going to be kind of going at it. You're going to feel like you want to speak up. But you can also be seen as the person who's saying too much. So getting involved with other people's fights, I would watch out for. And set bold intentions when it comes to your dreams and what you're hoping to achieve, whether that's planning a party or joining a club or a group. Don't feel isolated, don't feel separate from other people. And watch for a friend maybe triggering an old wound with a careless comment. Maybe you feel compelled to kind of redefine your friendships with people. And there could also be a fiery debate that can kind of come up that can really clarify your goals. Or your kind of beliefs in some way. Okay, well, focus on confidence in social settings. That's the best advice I can give you. All right, so we have got now Cancer and Cancer risings. You guys are going to experience the Mercury Chiron connection in Aries in your natal 10th house of career, reputation, your professional life, your role out in the world and society. Mercury is directly tied to the South Node transit that's going through your 3rd house. So it's a lot of clearing the air in conversations and communication. It can be about addressing insecurities in finding your professional voice, right? You might, go back to a conversation you had with a boss this week because you're feeling more confident. You may also feel like there's an email or a meeting or a letter, some kind of communication that comes up that makes you feel like, am I not performing well enough? Maybe practice pitching ideas in advance if we're giving any, presentations or proposals. Don't be asking for recognition because you might get some constructive criticism this week. And really heal wounds revolving around authority and owning your expertise. I predict that there could be a work conversation that gets a little heated. And that could be with a coworker, that could be with a boss. It could be with a parent. It could also be that there's a back and forth that you're having with a neighbor or a sibling over whose responsibility it is to take care of something. Who's supposed to pick up mom, from her doctor's appointment? Who's supposed to be the person who's managing the fence line? And there could be a little bit of a squabble over whose job it's supposed to be. So I think for a lot of you guys, these conversations can be revealing as to where you have kind of not wanted to step up to the plate and take responsibility for stuff. And on the other hand, some of you guys might intuitively kind of pitch a bold idea at work, and it could help you rethink your career path completely. Trust your gut and your intuition, especially because Mercury is also tied to your 12th house. And I would say you want to visualize yourself succeeding in all of your work doings. So if you know that you're going into work, prep yourself, meditate on that before you go into work. Listen to something positive. Listen to motivational, speakers or something as you're driving to work, something that's going to kind of get you confident and ready to go, because a lot of this is about finding your voice in a professional setting. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Mercury Chiron connection in Aries in your natal 9th house. Obviously, it's happening in a fellow sister fire sign. So if you have anything 20 to 25 degrees of Leo, sun, moon, or rising, you're getting trine. So it can be actually helpful for you in many ways. But Mercury is tied directly to the South Node. And this is going through your 2nd house where you're going through lots of financial changes. There are self-esteem shifts that's happening. Maybe it means that you're releasing or letting go of things. Maybe you're also feeling like, hey, I want to, learn more about bettering my finances. I want to develop healthier self-esteem. I don't want to be spending money on things. I want to be spending money on experiences. So with Mercury conjunct Chiron in your 9th house, what's going to come up is themes revolving around beliefs, travel, higher learning, education. So this is all about challenging your beliefs that have felt limited recently. And it would be really good for you guys, I think, to really sit down and write about what you've been taught about your potential and burn it if it no longer serves you. Speak your truth about what you stand for. This can also mean that, you're making a sacrifice, but it's actually an investment. So maybe you're, spending more money than you'd like to go on a retreat, but it's for healing. Maybe you're having to make some kind of financial sacrifice, but it's going to be for travel. And you're like, it's worth, breaking into the piggy bank to do this because it's something that's going to promote a healthier mind, body, and spirit. It's possible there could be like a philosophical debate or a travel plan that could spark some kind of healing epiphany. Some of you guys might clash with a teacher, a mentor, even a lawyer, but I feel like you're going to come out stronger on the other side of that because you're going to kind of stand up for yourself. Definitely this week, read some books that are going to be like self-help related or inspirational. Areas that are going to be kind of like really resonating with you, with the person that you're becoming, right? And getting more clarity, I think, on just what your beliefs are about your self-esteem, your values is going to be really beneficial for you guys this week. All right, so we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? You guys, this is very personal for you as you're ruled by Mercury as well. You and Gemini are you guys are going through the trenches this week with these transits. So Mercury is connected to your body, your behavior, your mannerisms, your appearance, sometimes even your health. And it's going to be meeting with Chiron in the 8th house. And the 8th house is the house where the sun don't shine. So we deal with all the shadow work, all the hidden things, the stuff we're afraid to talk about, the deep psychological kind of challenges, financial challenges, intimacy issues, endings and beginnings, right? So Mercury is directly tied also to the South Node transit going through your 1st house. So there can, for some of you guys, you can feel like you're having an identity crisis, or that one version of you is kind of like being shed away and there's something new emerging, but you're like, what is it going to be yet? It can feel a little rattling, but I feel like for the most part, the 8th house can be about transformation. Now, transformation of joint assets, it could be intimacy, it can be about endings and beginnings. Here, I think with Mercury going through the 8th house, you want to confront fears around vulnerability. And this is about talking openly with your partner about money or issues pertaining to security or trust. This is about healing wounds tied to power dynamics and reclaiming your voice. You could have some challenges that could be connected to insurance, banking, something connected to also just like psychological matters. Like this would actually be a really great transit to be like working with a therapist, or working with somebody who's going to help you move through trauma or move through grief. Maybe that you become aware that there is a part of yourself that you have been reluctant to heal or reluctant to work on. Equally, it can mean that, there is some kind of challenge coming up in terms of finances, and where somebody is saying, I cannot help you, or I won't give you the money, or I don't have the money, or I'm not going to pay for that, and you're like, oh my God, like what am I going to do? But you'll be fine. It's going to be a quick moving transit. All of this is about rebirth energy. So I think that some of these discussions that are going to come up, yes, they can get intense, but it's also exposing old scars and where you might actually uncover a truth that transforms how you connect with other people. I would lean into it. Definitely a really good time to be doing some shadow work, maybe keeping some grounding dark stones with you, like obsidian could be really great, tourmaline, just so you're kind of blocking out some of the more negative energies that can kind of come with this transit. Good luck, my Virgos. Let me know. I'm curious to hear how this plays out for you guys. All right, we've got Libra and Libra rising. I almost said Venus. You guys are Venus, but I'm looking at Mercury. So you guys are going to do the Mercury Chiron conjunction in Aries in your 7th house and your opposite sign. So if you're like Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, 22 to 26 degrees, this is happening in direct opposition to some of your placements. So it can feel like there's stuff going on with other people and you're kind of like stifled. Mercury obviously is connected to the 12th house South Node transit, where there's like a lot of like clearing the subconscious and things that have been kind of living rent free in your head. And this is what's hidden, and this is what kind of gets dealt with out in the open, 7th house. So 7th house deals with partnerships, relationships. It can be your marketplace, your therapist. It could be your spouse, your significant other, your business partner. And what you're going to see here is that this is really going to be about speaking up in your one-on-one relationships, Libra. On one hand, Aries is like a very me-first mentality, and the 7th house is going to be partners. So you're going to see partners, clients, other people that are going to be a little bit more impatient. They might be a little bit more frustrated. They could be going through some job issues, some health issues, some challenges in communication and expressing themselves. And I feel like this is a time, Libra, that I would be addressing any unspoken hurts with courage. And, you can heal patterns of people pleasing that can come up during these transits by asserting your needs and telling somebody else, you know what, this has been bothering me for a while. Now I'm going to deal with it and get it out in the open. So expect that there's going to be like a partner Could be a client, could be a spouse, it could be a therapist that's doing a little poking and prodding mentally, that's going to push your buttons. And it's really going to reveal where you've been silencing yourself or you've been kind of diluting yourself in terms of your interactions. Expect a raw, honest talk that either deepens or redefines that particular relationship or connection. What advice I would give you guys is don't be surprised if other people are going to show up on the defense. They're going to be very defensive. And if that's what they're doing, you can let them kind of do their thing. And then you can go, look, I've been noticing that this is a pattern. This has been happening for a while and I haven't said anything, but now I'm going to say something. And it's a good time, I think, with Venus being in the 7th house as well. Other people may not be as aware of some of their mannerisms, and Saturn's going to be there very soon. So there's definitely a new sheriff in town for a lot of Libra risings in terms of kind of rebalancing the scales in certain relationships. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You are going to be doing the Mercury Chiron connection in your natal 6th house of your health, your coworkers, your routines, your habits, your pets. Obviously, Mercury is directly tied to your 11th house, which is about your goals, your friendships, your allies, and the South Node is moving through there. So a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings are like, my friends are changing, they're going in different directions. Maybe there's reconnections with people from the past. That's possible here as well. And it can also just be about like networks and connections that you have with people professionally. Obviously, Virgo deals with work. And so when Mercury and Chiron meet in the 6th house, you might feel like there's something disjointed about the friends you have at work. Maybe there's something that's not working very well in terms of like team building dynamics or, working with groups and other people where there can be some communication issues and some problems that are coming up. The other way of looking at this is that this can be about rethinking your daily self-talk. And this is about replacing criticism with encouragement and addressing health habits tied to stress, like headaches, inflammation, rashes, digestional issues, and replacing some of these kind of feisty mentalities more with like meaningful, mindful communication and really being aware of what's going on with your body. I do predict that there could be a work convo that can highlight like where you've overextended yourself, or maybe you feel more so driven to overhaul your routine. It would be a good transit if you need to find a vet, if you need to find a therapist, if you need to find a trainer. Maybe a friend makes a recommendation that's like, hey, you should check out this gym or you should talk to this doctor. It can also be a time where you're healing a wound revolving around work and purpose, and that's because there is a connection coming in from the past that can actually help you find that. I would just say, definitely watch for impulsive health decisions this week. Pace yourself. This is a transit where I do see people get burnt out with work. I do see people have, weird injuries or, medical drug interactions or other things, or their pets kind of get sick. So pay attention to some of that stuff that can kind of be coming up, whether it's health-wise or in the workplace for you guys. And interesting that this is happening. It's setting the stage for Saturn coming into your 6th house, where you're definitely something about your health is tied to your mind. And whether that's how you're thinking at work, how you're communicating with people at work, the mental stress that you might be under, it's helping you become aware that, hey, what's been going on? It has not been working. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys are going to do the Mercury Chiron conjunction taking place in your natal 5th house. Obviously, this is in a fellow sister fire sign. So if you're like 20 to 24, 25 degrees of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, you'll have a trine. So it is kind of beneficial and helpful in a way with some of the aspects to your planets in Sagittarius. Now, Mercury is directly tied to the South Node Virgo transit going on in your 10th house, where a lot of you guys are going through a shift revolving around your professional, position. Some of you guys are feeling like, time for me to kind of walk away from a job. I need to change directions with work. Maybe you're going back to an old job you used to do. Maybe your focus is just more on like a home and family, or reorienting kind of like your private life with the North Node in your 4th. I think with this transit, it's interesting because I can't help but notice like Mercury is also the dispositor of Jupiter, right? Which is your planetary ruler. It's in the 7th. So it looks like there is going to be a conversation that's going to be had between you and another person. Now it can be you and a sibling, you and a romantic partner, you and a child, you talking to a partner about children. Childhood stuff can come up here as well. And I feel like it's about really kind of expressing yourself unfiltered. The 5th house is about creativity. It's about romance and joy. certainly you can do something creative. If you're into creative writing or self-expression or poetry or music, you could do that. But I think this is about expressing yourself unfiltered. So paint, write, flirt, do whatever you have to do, create without fear. I think this is about healing wounds revolving around creative rejection, or romantic confidence by owning, your spark and really kind of standing out. It's possible a creative project might hit a vulnerable nerve, or a flirtation, turns unexpectedly deep. I would expect bold, playful energy that it might test your self-worth a little bit, but only to rise it. And dancing, to shake off any doubt, or being active physically can be helpful here as well. I think a lot of this is about embracing a new identity that's going to be emerging, where maybe you're moving away from your traditional 9 to 5 and you're like, I'm becoming a parent, or I'm moving into something more creative, or I'm going to start performing, something like that, where you're really owning that identity that's kind of coming through. And maybe carry a little carnelian with you for a little bit boost of like creativity and passion. I think that could actually be really good with the 5th house transit that you guys are going to have. Okay. Do something with some of that stuff. If you guys are having some childhood wounds or some heartbreak coming up, do something with it, create or write. All right, we got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. What's up, Capricorn? You're going to be experiencing the Mercury Chiron connection in Aries in your natal 4th house. And if you are 20 to 24, 25 degrees, you're feeling the square. So be mindful of that it can definitely feel a little bit more uncomfortable. At least it's private. It is in the 4th house, which deals with your home, your family, your roots, the past, right? So all of those things are kind of within the 4th house realm. Now, Mercury is tied to the South Node in Virgo transit that's happening in your 9th house. So something about a shift in your beliefs. It can be about also like legal matters, educational matters, long distance trips, traveling. All that stuff is kind of getting factored into the transit in the 4th. So some of you guys are literally going, well, I'm moving back home and it's not fun, but it's part of my goal. Or maybe you are deciding that, you're making a change in your educational path. Maybe it means that your beliefs revolving around home and where home is shifting in some way. Now, I think for you guys, this is really about speaking up at home and addressing family patterns or childhood wounds with honesty. Heal your inner foundation by voicing what you need to feel secure. Yes, there can be uncomfortable conversations with roommates, with family, with partners, and it can get fiery, and it can be about bringing up past wounds. And you might feel urged to set boundaries or rethink your living space. And I would say trust your instincts. Mercury in the 4th house is definitely very intuitive. So if you're like, I feel like this isn't the place for me to be, I need to go somewhere else, we need to see what else is out there, so be it. If you're dealing with like a property matter or a legal matter involving a home or a family matter, might be smart to consider talking to somebody who can kind of help you become aware of your rights, because it can be tied to like legal matters. So I look at this and I'm like, well, a good time to definitely address past wounds or things that you have been wanting to say for some time, but you've been afraid to say. All of this happening literally weeks before your chart ruler goes into the 4th house. So it's likely like you'll have a conversation with somebody that's like, hey, this isn't working out, like I need you to move out. Or maybe you're having an issue with a parent, and parental things at a distance or family things at a distance can come up here, and it can be prompting you to go, okay, at the end of the month, now I need to go and be there for family, or I need to be dealing with like a home or family matter. So just keep that in mind. Definitely reorganize your space and create space for healing. Even if you have to light a candle somewhere and just have like a little quiet room where you can kind of do some meditations, that would be wonderful. And try not to harbor any resentment or hold on to anything from the past. This is about finally letting it go, because you're about to redefine, a whole new chapter in what your home and family life looks like as Saturn enters into your 4th house this year. Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Mercury Chiron conjunction in Aries in your natal 3rd house. Now, Mercury is comfortable in the 3rd house. It's able to speak its mind, communicate, write, move, travel, and learn. And Mercury is very much connected to your South Node in Virgo 8th house transit, where there has been a breaking apart, an unraveling of karmic connections with other people. releasing, financial ties or stickiness to others. It's also directly connected to how you're communicating and talking about fears, change, intimacy, taxes, joint finances. So this could be like documents and reading the fine print. This can be about negotiating things and whether or not you're getting what you need out of something. And after you've gone through some kind of psychological kind of clearing process, now you know exactly what you want to say and how to say it. So for you guys, I would say, communication, learning, and siblings can all be the main topics, but you want to watch how you're talking to yourself and other people. You really want to heal wounds and kind of come at it from a direction of maybe in the past you've been misunderstood, because you were too blunt and you were too direct. And now you're rethinking how you're going to communicate and get your point across. Write or debate to process your thoughts. Watch for like a sibling or a neighbor that might spark like a heated exchange with you. There can also be a sudden aha moment about how to better communicate. And I think some of you guys might have like a mental breakthrough. Jot them down. Keep like a notepad nearby so you can do that. Make sure your voice is clear. You might kind of get a little flustered when it comes to communicating and starting a conversation, or you feel like you're afraid of how the conversation is going to play out or how it's going to go. Don't be. And definitely watch for anything. I feel like there's more damage that will happen actually if you're not speaking up. You have to say something now. And maybe it's going to cost you in some way in terms of security with another person. It could cost you financially, but you're like, you know what? I don't care. It's the principle. Now I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say something. And if you guys are having a difficult time like finding the right words, blue lace agate can be really great for, breath work and breathing. So if you want to be doing some breath work exercises to kind of work up the nerve to have a conversation with somebody and also kind of clear the voice, and not be so feisty before you speak, that's definitely something I would recommend. Good luck. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys are going to be doing the Mercury Chiron conjunction in Aries in your natal second house of money, value, self-worth, self-esteem. So not everything is going to be financial with this transit. I actually think a lot of it is going to be about whether or not you feel wanted, whether or not you feel valued by other people. If somebody is paying you enough, if somebody's appreciating you, if you feel like you're not being chosen. These are some of the things that might be kind of coming up for you this week. Now, Mercury is directly tied to the South Node in Virgo transit in your 7th house, where there is some karmic clearing kind of going on in relationships. Maybe people from the past are coming back. Maybe you're, feeling like you didn't get closure with somebody. Now you're giving it to yourself. Maybe this is where there's changes going on in relationships to other people, clients, coworkers, spouses, and the direct impact that has on your self-esteem, your security, or your finances. So as Mercury and Chiron meet in the 2nd house, this is really all about affirming your worth. And, really, I think talking yourself up about talents and finances, you have to be your biggest hype man this week. We want to heal wounds revolving around scarcity by boldly asking for what you deserve and knowing your worth, even if that means you have to tell some people, no, that's not enough, or that's not going to work for me, or I need more. Watch for money conversations. They can feel kind of personal, especially if there's self-esteem issues that are kind of coming up. It's also possible you might impulsively negotiate a raise or rethink your budget. And I would say that's great. If that's how it materializes for you, just go for it with confidence, right? You want to be confident and remind yourself, I am worthy of prosperity. I am worthy of everything that, I deserve. And other people may not reaffirm that for you this week, but you have to be giving that to yourself and moving away from this mindset that you're not going to have enough or that you're not going to be wanted, that you are capable. So important. Saturn's about to leave your sign, guys. It's going into your 2nd house. So you have to believe that you can go and build what it is that you would like to build. Hope that's helpful, Pisces. Obviously, let me know how that plays out for you guys. That's kind of the cosmic rundown for the week ahead from May the 4th to the 11th, 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like these videos, you want to see more of them, click the bell button below and subscribe to the channel. This will alert you as to when I'm here. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. I'd love to hear from you guys. Like I said, because Chiron's the star player, use him to heal and speak up and step into your power. Drop a comment on some of the transits that are happening. Especially if you're somebody who's got Mercury conjunct Chiron, or maybe you're going through Mercury Chiron transit yourself, we'd love to kind of hear from you guys and get some feedback. You guys are always great for leaving comments. I try to get back to you whenever I can. And I guess I hope that this is helpful in kind of navigating some of the communication stuff this week. So make sure you click the links below. You guys can find my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. We've got lots of offers. We've got courses and calendars, webinars, merch, all on my channel. You can also book a personal reading with me. All of that and more at beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, guys, I will catch you guys back here in just a couple days. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and this is a great week ahead for you. Until next time, take care.